My name is Melissa Muscat, and I'm honored to serve as chair of UJA Women's Philanthropy for the 2020 annual campaign, alongside my wonderful vice chair, Perry Kirschenblatt. I hope you and your families are healthy, safe, and managing during this time of increased vulnerability. At this time of physical distancing, we appreciate you taking the time to gather together online for this special UJA Young Women's Leadership Program. Over the past few days, just when it felt as if the world couldn't take another crisis, we've been watching what's been happening in the United States with great concern. It's a reminder that even amid a global pandemic, we cannot lose sight of the fight against racism and the importance of standing up when other communities are hurting, just as we hope and ask that they stand up for us. Being a part of UJA and the Women's Philanthropy Division has really changed my life in so many ways, and I am proud to spend my time with an organization whose mandate it is to help the most vulnerable and strengthen Jewish life in Toronto, Israel, and around the world. Thank you again for joining us this afternoon, and at this time, I would also like to thank our Women's Philanthropy sponsor, BMO, for their continued support. We are so appreciative. Last Monday, UJA officially launched the Emergency Campaign for Community Resilience to support the huge increase in community needs stemming from COVID-19 and the pandemic that we are all living through. At that time, in case you missed it, insights were shared of what is happening in the community, UJA's plan to build our community's resilience, and how you can play a vital role. UJA CEO Adam Minsky shared some devastating statistics. In short, our community is facing a crisis that we have never before encountered, and just a few months ago, we could never have imagined. The grave risks stemming from the COVID-19 pandemic include that our community's agencies and resources will be overwhelmed by the needs of the Jewish vulnerable, and that we will see the most massive loss of participation in Jewish life in the history of our community, as Jews in financial crisis withdraw their children from day schools, supplementary schools, camps, and JCCs. Left unaddressed, these two challenges would have catastrophic impact. The following are some of the statistics that were shared. With at least 44% Canadian households hit by job loss or reduced working hours, we know that the same is happening in our community. Roughly half of all Jewish households in our city are suffering. The 1 in 8 Jews who struggled with poverty before the pandemic are now in even greater need. With our existing resources, we simply cannot manage the surging needs of the newly vulnerable. Since the pandemic began, we've seen 80% increase in requests for help from Jewish families in financial crisis, 30% increase requests for kosher meals on wheels, 40% increase in Jewish seniors seeking help, and 85% increase in Jews requesting addiction counseling. Overall, we estimate 25,000 more community members will need the support of UJA's network of social service agencies beyond the usual caseload. We have been so inspired by the women throughout our community who have stepped up as leaders in this moment of crisis. By giving so generously of their time, volunteering, and providing funds to help those who have been hit hardest by the COVID-19 crisis, Jewish women across our city are making a real difference in the lives of so many. It gives us tremendous confidence about the future of our community. It's clear that we're seeing the emergence of an inspiring generation whose children and grandchildren will one day look back upon with admiration, knowing that the thriving community they enjoy was made possible because of your incredible leadership. We appreciate you being a vital part of UJA. As female leaders, you will shape our future, and we need you now more than ever. Please watch this short video that explains how UJA and our partner agencies are responding to the current challenges.
clients are scared. Our clients are frightened.
People worried about how am I going to support myself? How am I going to support my family?
This is that rainy day. In fact, this is a thunderstorm. It's a tsunami.
Our seniors, many are in a state of crisis.
From women who have found themselves in abusive situations from which they can't escape.
And all of a sudden, because of COVID, have no income and are worried about feeding their children.
One of the things that has been very challenging is watching our frontline staff and some of our co-workers become ill.
With school closing, our respite programs, after school care, all of our supports have been sort of on hold.
I can't tell you how many people have reached out to us to say that they would not be eating right now if it wasn't for, the collective efforts of our community.
From day one, UJA contacted us and got us enough Zoom accounts.
And with the support of UJA Federation, we've been able to prepare and deliver over 7,200 meals.
Really, with UJA, they allow us to treat our clients with respect and dignity.
This is why UJA was created. UJA was created to be able to respond as a community so that every Jewish person in this community has their needs met.
A donation can make the difference between us having these services for years to come and a service being cut.
Clearly, these are unprecedented times.
Now is the time when your money can really make a difference.
It's our obligation to show everybody in our community that we are not indifferent.
The need is so great and is so obvious and it's so local.
If we don't give and support our most vulnerable now, then when?
Hi everyone, I'm Mara Klein. Wow, that video says it all, how UJA is committed to helping the most vulnerable in the current time of crisis. As we heard in the video, there are many women who have found themselves in abusive situations which they can't escape. I was shocked to learn that in the first weeks of the lockdown in New York region, domestic abuse calls to police spiked more than 25%. To that point, what resonated with me the most is how quickly UJA responds in times of need. In less than 2 months, UJA, with the support of donors and volunteers, has helped so many people. It is truly amazing. And while we have accomplished so much, we know there's still so much more to do. This video makes me proud to be involved in young women's leadership, and I know that the decisions we make today will have an incredible impact on the future of Jewish Toronto. On behalf of myself and my fellow co-chairs of Young Women's Leadership, Leah Baruch and Kelly Ostro, we'd like to thank our amazing and dedicated committee, Jennifer Goldhar, Heather Hoen, Ilana Mazur, Samantha Richmond, Regan Tessis, Jillian Tishman, and Michelle Warner for working so hard and tirelessly to help develop young women's leadership in this amazing webinar.
I am Leah Baruch, and I would like to share a bit about UJA's Young Women's Leadership. Young Women's Leadership is an arm of women's philanthropy aiming to create meaningful relationships with like-minded women who prioritize community involvement alongside obligations in their personal and professional lives. They are bolstered by an understanding of and commitment to UJA and its work in Toronto, Israel, and overseas. It provides opportunities for women to meet each other, strengthen their identity as Jewish women in the community, and learn how UJA provides critical support to over 100 agencies. Young Women's Leadership encourages new and diverse connections, enabling growth, both personally and professionally. The focus of Young Women's Leadership highlights inclusive, engaging, and inspirational programming with the intent of fostering a community of emerging female leaders and philanthropists. We foster a deeper involvement in the Toronto Jewish community and inspire individual giving. Young Women's Leadership is proud to showcase many of the wonderful people and organizations involved with and supported by UJA, and brings more attention to ways we can support each other. By providing an inclusive environment, women can emerge as leaders, building a commitment to UJA and giving back to the community in a meaningful way.
Thank you, Leah. Hi, everyone. I'm Kelly Ostro. As Melissa mentioned, UJA's community campaign launch took place earlier this week, where we heard from New York Times editor and author Bari Weiss. She spoke beautifully about what is essential and vital for a healthy Jewish community. Thanks to your support and the support of our community, both financially and through volunteerism, we are working so that money is never a barrier to Jewish life, that our Jewish schools, camps, and institutions are able to survive, and that no one has to go hungry. These are the pillars to securing a solid Jewish foundation. I know I speak for myself and for my co-chairs when I say, we are proud to be supporting these building blocks of Jewish life in Toronto. I hope you are too. It is now my honor to welcome this afternoon our special guest, Chef Jordan Wagman. Chef Wagman is a Beard-nominated chef, best-selling author, philanthropist, and diet specialist for autoimmune disorders. All of Jordan's recipes are free from gluten, dairy, and refined sugar. We are thrilled he is able to join us today and share his delicious recipes and kitchen tips. Jordan really enjoys an interactive experience, so please feel free to post any questions you may have on our chat, and I really will do my best to get to them all. Welcome, Jordan.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Good. So I couldn't be happier to be here. As a matter of fact, I have been in the system, if you will. I attended the Jerome D. Diamond Adolescence Center when I was in grade 11. It's run by Jewish Family Child, and now I sit on the board of directors for JFCS. So when I was given the opportunity to be here and support, I jumped at the chance. So thank you very much for having me. I am going to, pun intended, I am going to zoom through this because it's, it's 35 minutes and we have a lot to cover. So as Kelly said, I love to hear new questions. It's not often, so I think I'm armed for everything that's coming for me. But if I don't get any, I will just non-stop for the next 35 minutes, hopefully give you some awesome giveaways. Takeaways, not giveaways, takeaways. So today we're making a couple of my signature dishes. We're making chicken kale meatballs with cherry tomato sauce and a basil pesto. And my brownies, which aren't your typical brownies. If you were sitting in my restaurant, which is my home, and I serve these brownies to you hot from the oven, you would think you were just eating a great decadent brownie. Little did you know that they're actually made from avocado and aroma-free coconut oil are the two main fat ingredients. When I'm recreating, and Kelly alluded to it, all of my food is gluten, dairy, and sugar-free. The reason is because about 6 years ago, I sought the help of a naturopath. And since the age of 12, I've suffered with psoriasis. And 12 years ago, I was really ready to make a commitment to changing my diet, or at least changing my ways. I had spent a year of my life at the Dead Sea in Israel getting psoriasis treatments. I've spent a year of my life in the hospital. I wrote every high school exam in the hospital. And so but I could never really find, although sunshine was a good first piece to my puzzle, I could never really find that second piece until I met Dr. Jody Larry. I went to go see Jody Larry, and she's a naturopath in Toronto. And 6 years ago, from one meeting, I removed gluten, dairy, and refined sugar from my diet. And within 60 days, my psoriasis started to go away and 30 pounds melted off my body. So, it was this aha moment. And now for me, I take my culinary skills and I teach people how to eat this way, cook this way. As I said, my home is my restaurant, so people book out my home. And as people are here, it's a very interactive experience. I'm cooking right in front of you. You can see my island has my range right in it. So I want your questions. So here's what we're making. Fudge brownies, okay? We have a double boiler. Double boiler, simple. Pot of water, boiling water, a pot on top of the pot. Bowl on top of the pot. So really simple. What you want, and the trick is, you want a bowl that's much bigger than the space of the pot, okay? We let it sit. Really, really, really simple technique. All we're waiting to do, because all of the ingredients, this entire recipe can be eaten raw, you want to wait for the cacao to melt. So here are the ingredients. We have raw cacao. We have a little bit of, and it's totally optional, instant coffee. So I found a beautiful fair trade organic instant coffee that I love. So I tried it, and anytime you add, or you're making chocolate, coffee is a great sort of additive. It brings out the pop. It makes the whole chocolate just come alive. So we've got a little bit of instant coffee, the raw cacao, which is raw chocolate, right? We have maple syrup. So anytime I'm using sweeteners in the kitchen, it's always maple syrup. You can use agave, you can use honey, but maple syrup for me has the most flavor. And because all of my desserts are all plant-based, I want to make sure that I have as much flavor, forget it. I want to make sure I have as much flavor in there as I can possibly get. What you'll learn very quickly in 35 minutes is I don't teach recipes, I teach techniques. I want you to feel comfortable that you can recreate all of this food that I'm teaching you at home, okay? So we have the instant coffee, the raw cacao, and we have maple syrup. As I said earlier, we're always replacing fat for fat. I love ice cream. I love fatty things. I love them, but I can't eat them. My psoriasis will flare up and it's just not good for me. So I recreate or create a sense of familiarity. This is what the brownie recipe is all about. I'm replacing fat for fat. So I'm not using butter. I'm using aroma-free coconut oil. Once it's cooked, it gives the same mouthfeel as butter, okay? Aroma-free is perfect in my house. One simple reason. I have a 16 and a 13-year-old, and they hate the taste of coconut, and I can trick them to eating this as long as I don't use regular coconut oil. I have avocado. So this is a very ripe avocado. Here's how I cut my avocado. I simply slice at the top, and then I roll my avocado right down the knife. Cut it in half, and boom. Okay, so if I want to get the pit out, I just crack the pit. It comes to the bottom of the knife. I bang the bottom of the knife, and the pit comes out. And I always have a little bowl or something so that as I'm doing my kale or as I'm doing my avocado, I don't have to keep going to the garbage can. I have a little pot here, a little bowl here, storing all of my food stuff that will go into the compost.
Sorry,
Okay?
Jen, I'm going to interrupt you for 1 sec. Someone was wondering what brand of fair trade coffee you like to use.
Remind me, and I will go into my cupboard before we leave.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Okay, so I thought the question was going to be what kind of pots and pans do I use, because typically that's a question that would come right out of the gate. So I'll answer that one.
Why don't you answer both?
I will answer the coffee at the end, but so my pots and pans are largely copper. I use all-clad, I like all-clad, but I'll tell you the truth. I hear so much debate about what pots and pans we should use. Honestly, I've used Cuisinart pans for the last 18 years. They were given to me when I wrote my first cookbook, and they were fantastic until my wife bought me an anniversary gift or a birthday present, I forget which, copper pans from France. The difference for me is that when I'm cooking for 15, 20, 40 people in my home, and they want it fast, and I'm a one-man show, I peel your carrots, I cook for you, I do everything. I need my pots and pans to heat up really quick. That's why copper is really good, because it heats up quickly and retains its heat really well. It doesn't matter. I have 2 requirements when I'm looking for pots and pans or suggesting it to the home cook. 1, you want it all steel. You want to be able to go from your stovetop into your oven and out of the oven onto your stovetop. That's why we have oven mitts. It's why we have towels. Don't buy pots and pans necessarily. I don't say don't. I don't. I don't buy pots and pans with rubber or plastic on, okay? There's only one pan in my entire repertoire that has it, and that is my omelet pan. And it's the same one that I've had for 25 years when I didn't know better to buy plastic back then. The other reason, or the other thing to look for is a reinforced bottom, a really thick bottom. This copper is a very thick bottom as it is. If you're buying aluminum, for example, you always want to make sure, don't buy aluminum. But if you're buying aluminum, then you want to make sure that that bottom is reinforced. It has another piece of metal reinforced. You want ideally a 1 piece, just like this beautiful copper pot. And the best place to go, I've seen them all the time, go, whatever that means anymore. But the best place I used to find them is Bed Bath & Beyond in Winners. Right in the back, they always used to be great deals there. Okay, I need to get going.
I know you need to get going. I just want to address one more question and then I'm going to mute myself for a bit. Another attendee would like to know, is there a difference between using liquid and solid coconut oil?
So the difference is that if you remember, you end with what you start with. So if you have coconut oil that's coagulated, which is what you want to use, when you go and make something like this, it's going to melt, right? It will become a liquid. And then once it goes into the fridge or freezer, it will become a solid again. That's what you want. You want it to become solid again. I've never in my existence, certainly as long as I've been eating clean, I've never used the liquefied coconut oil. I would always use the coagulated or the harder coconut oil. Okay, don't stop the questions, I can totally go. So what I've done here is, it's stone fruit season. This is a really important takeaway. It's stone fruit season. You're eating apples 12 months of the year, tomatoes you're growing in the garden. Organic or not, this is 100% of the time. My grandmother was way ahead of the curve. I used to make fun is a strong word. She's now 98 years old. She's amazing. I mean, Grandma Shank, she's Grandma Shank. So Grandma Shank used to take her grapes and put them under warm water. But then she used to serve those grapes warm. I never understood it, but she was ahead of her time. The reason she did that, and the reason I always rinse my stone fruit, my tomatoes, anything I'm going to eat the skin of under warm water, is to melt away those impurities and melt away that wax. If you buy a conventional apple, meaning non-organic apple, I encourage you to try this. Take a bowl, or you don't want to do this. Take a bowl with warm water, dip that apple halfway in, take it out, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Warm water will melt away all of those impurities, okay? These cherry tomatoes are rinsed under warm water. I'm getting rid of that. This is the easiest tomato sauce and one of the best you'll ever make, okay? What's amazing about it is that once it's made, it takes on a cream sauce look and mouthfeel, but it only has 2 ingredients. Ready? Cherry tomatoes have been rinsed under warm water. I put them into a warm saucepan. They don't have to be at all. The second ingredient is olive oil. You have a recipe. You have access to a recipe, and hey, you can always find my recipes on my website at jordanwagman.com, but I've cooked for you. So if I'm cooking in front of you, and I say this all the time and people laugh, yeah, he'll never get back to me. If you message me on any social media, I will always get back to you. Culinary questions. So what I've done here is I've covered the bottom with olive oil. Cherry tomatoes, rinsed under warm water. Imagine that it's like, we're gonna get this dinner done in 35 minutes. So you've got cherry tomatoes here, olive oil covers the bottom. All we're waiting for, we're gonna cover it, we're gonna put it aside, and all we're waiting on are those cherry tomatoes, the skins to split, all the water comes out, and it goes from having 0 liquid, just the oil, to this. So all of the skins have split, all the water has come out, and now the tomatoes are covered. Watch what happens. Watch what happens if my, yeah. How's that? And so anticlimactic. All right, we'll get to it in a second. So anticlimactic. Okay, so here's what we've got. This is already done. Your brownies are almost done, and then we're gonna get to the chicken kale meatballs really quickly, okay? The avocados, we're not looking for them to do anything except sit in this liquid. All we're waiting for is that cacao to melt into the coconut and to the maple syrup, okay? I can see the coconut still has a little bit to go, meaning it's still hard, okay? Once this is done, be another 2 or 3 minutes. Once that's done, we're gonna puree that. I'm gonna have to find some way to puree this in a second. Okay, brownies are almost done. Tomato sauce is almost done. Need electricity. Okay, chicken kale meatballs. I created something that it's about 4 or 5 years ago. I released this recipe, and I swear to you that I just continue to get them. It's the most amazing thing. I love it. And it was born from having 2 ingredients in my refrigerator, chicken and kale. So I take my kale. Another great takeaway is All of my greens, when they come home, that means your romaine, your kale, your fresh herbs, they sit in cold water. It can be 5 minutes, it can be 5 hours, it makes no difference. Strain them, roll them up into paper towel. My kale lasts 10 days. My basil lasts 6 or 7 days. The thing about my fresh herbs is that rarely I will keep them that long. Oftentimes, I simply make them into my pesto, have the recipe, and I freeze them in ice cube trays. I'll pop them out and then store them in Ziploc bags. Then I have that basil pesto for months or a year at a time, okay? So I take my kale off the stalk. Basically, think about rolling it off, okay? I discard the stems, save it for a stalk, save it for whatever you want. And then I will chiffonade. Chiffonade's fancy word for thin ribbons, okay? Kelly, how am I on time?
You're doing great.
Okay. So we have the kale, which I've rolled up, right? You've got a leaf, we rolled it up really, really tight. And we're making thin ribbons. That's what a chiffonade is. Here's how you won't cut yourself. Think of the claw. I'm always cutting against this knuckle here, this flat right here, okay? I always curl the first knuckle underneath, and the thumb is always securing the food stuff in place, just like this. Now, you don't chop down, you follow the contour of a chef knife. It's just like this. It's meant to roll, and slice through your food. That's what we're doing. We're slicing through the food, okay? So, we've got the kale, that's a chiffonade. What's really, really, really important, I say it all the time, my wife rarely listens to me, Manishtana, and tomorrow we'll sometimes cut the kale too thick. The reason for cutting it really thin, it's not for aesthetics at all. It's twofold. Well, really, most importantly, it holds it together. Think about a web. That's what this creates. And then once we cool it down, I have it in the refrigerator cooling down, already made into balls, and magic of television, but it creates this web because there's no filler, there's no bread. In professional kitchens, and especially in French kitchens, we would always make a pain. Pain, bread. Bread is really mixed with, I think, brioche or challah, mixed with heavy cream to make a paste. That's what makes those meatballs in those restaurants really tasty, is that that's what they do. They will take breadcrumbs, mix it with some sort of milk or cream, and that's where the moisture is coming from. We don't have that here. What creates the moisture is the kale. Please don't use spinach. Spinach will not work the same way. If you do want to use spinach and you only have spinach at your disposal, by all means, blanch it first, cool it down, then chop it up. Make sure it's really dry. That way you've taken out as much water as possible. If you add dry spinach to this recipe, as you do kale, it will just liquefy the whole thing, they'll fall apart, okay? So, really simple. I've got my kale, and you'll see that it's basically 50-50 ground chicken. You can use ground turkey. My wife will use ground beef all the time for the kids, whatever meat you want. Okay, ground chicken. From here,
Jordan, just going back to the kale for a second, somebody wanted to know if they could use any other kinds of kale, like dinosaur kale?
Any kale works. Tuscan kale, any kale works.
Thank you.
The problem, Kelly, with using chard or using collard greens or there's just so much moisture. Actually, collards might work, but kale, any kale works perfect here. Okay, 50-50. Kale chiffonade and ground chicken. We're gonna mix it all together and then put it in our refrigerator. And then, magic of television, we've got them done. The reason I cool them down is really simple. It's actually, oh, I gotta get that, yes. The reason I cool them down is because I want that web to set up. I want them to sort of have a little bit of structure before they hit the warm saute pan. These will end up, no matter what, coming almost triangular because there's nothing to really hold them in place. But they're just so darn good that it's not gonna matter, okay? So let me wash my hands And I'm gonna have to go over here and use a different plug, but I think you can still see me.
How long do those meatballs sit in the fridge for?
You can keep them in the fridge for 10 minutes, no minutes, or overnight, whatever you want.
And if you wanted to freeze them, would you freeze them frozen or would you freeze them raw after refrigerating them?
Raw.
Raw.
Absolutely. The way to do that, Kelly, is that you want to freeze them individually on a sheet pan, let them freeze to basically create that IQF, individually quick frozen, right?
That's so they don't stick together, right?
Pardon?
That's so that they don't stick together?
Exactly. Wait until they're individuals, and then you will put them in a Ziploc bag and put them in your freezer, but definitely do it raw. Okay, so let's go over here and let's plug in. I wonder if it's because of that. You can see me. So what's going to happen here is we're creating an emulsification. And this emulsification, if you think about it, is dressing, okay? The water from the tomato is going to be stuffed up and held in place tight with the olive oil. And you can see it's going to change color and get really, really, really light. It's okay, sweetheart. I love you. I have a new puppy.
So we have another question coming in. This is a great question. I wanted to know this myself also. If you wanted to bind the meatballs into better, bigger circles, would adding too much almond flour change the taste? Or is there another kind of flour that you could use?
So sorry, Billy, I love you, buddy. It's a great question. Wow. So that's what I'm talking about.
Great questions from our participants, I have to tell you.
No one's ever asked that before. Okay, so here's the answer. Almond flour. I would use potato starch. I would use, if you're eating gluten-free, okay? I would use a little bit of potato starch is what I would do, okay? That will bind it in place. It will keep it if you're trying to be gluten-free. But
the person that asked this, I happen to know her and she is gluten-free, so I think she will appreciate.
Yeah, potato starch is the way to go.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so let's go here. You can see the color, see how light that is. I'm going to keep it over here in a saucepan and keep it warm. Next one, let's finish off the brownies. So the brownies are now, we're going to puree this mixture and get this really, really, really creamy, okay? So you can see all you have, maybe you can't see, but really all you have is basically what looks like a chocolate. It doesn't look all that great. A chocolate covered avocado does not really sound appealing. Watch what happens in 2 seconds, okay? So we are going to puree this. Here's where your almond flour comes in, and almond flour is my greatest, it's my favorite ingredient to use, one of the many ways, when I'm making desserts, okay? So now we're gonna create this thick mixture, and we're going to thicken it with that almond flour. And that's gonna create our brownie mixture. Now you could literally, and this is one of my desserts, is, let's talk about nut-free options for a moment, because I know that was a consideration. So if you are nut-free, coconut flour is the greatest alternative here, okay? If you don't want any flour at all, you don't need it. Freeze it. If you want, remember what's going to give this structure is that coconut oil. That's going to give it, and the avocado. That's going to give it the most structure, all right? We're almost done. Creamy and beautiful. So we're going to thicken this. If I tell you, I'm going to show you this mixture. But if I tell you that it just looks thick and creamy, I mean, it's just gorgeous. We're going to mount this or thicken it with some almond flour. So here are, you can either do one of two things. Raw, I'm using raw. If I toasted it, bring out all those beautiful oils, and it's going to take on a little bit more of an almond flavor. I want the almond to be muted, okay? I'm going to just thicken this a little bit, and I'm going to put this in 2 ramekins. It's going to go in the oven. Now, again, I'll repeat, and it's really important. You don't have to cook it. Everything can be eaten as is. You could put this into Pyrex. You could put it into a spring form, put it in your freezer, and have like a really fudgy frozen tort. It'd be amazing, okay? One of my all-time favorite desserts is a fudgy warm brownie from the oven. So here I have my 2 ramekins. This is going to go in the oven. And we're waiting for it to just bubble up.
Jordan, I actually have my own question. What are your thoughts on tapioca and cassava flours? Do you bake with them ever?
I love that you just asked that. So I have a hockey player who will not eat. I'm going to talk to you as I grab the chicken kale meatballs from the fridge, okay? He won't eat any corn. And so I said to him, I want you to grab some cassava flour, and we're going to make cassava tortillas. And if you think about, if you go for dim sum, a scallion pancake, okay? I chopped up some scallions, I made the batter, water and cassava flour. We make tortillas, crepes, okay? But really, really crispy. I absolutely love cassava. You need to be prepared for what it brings to the table. And specifically, that is, it's chewy, right? It's yummy. So you need to be prepared for that when you're making something, okay? But the crispy sort of tortilla-like things, I absolutely love. I haven't, full disclosure, I haven't really tried to bake with it all that much. That hasn't interested me very much. But the savory stuff definitely does. Okay. Yeah. Here's more big takeaways, okay? Anytime you're searing anything, barbecue, you're getting into barbecue season, please, please, please go to your barbecue, turn every one of them on, if it's gas, on high. Get a smoking hot grill. Everyone always asks me, do I use nonstick pans? Every single pan I use is nonstick. Why? Because I get them hot first. And I'm not a premature flipper. And I'll explain that in a minute. You get a smoking hot pan or a hot pan, a hot barbecue. The moment food stuff hits that pan, you have 2 options. You can turn it down, but remember that that food stuff very quickly, as you're adding it to the pan, cools the pan down itself, right? The moment you're adding something to the pan, it cools it down, okay? So, hot pan. The moment your food stuff, it could be a banana, it could be cauliflower, it could be chicken, steak, fish, it makes no difference. Hi, sweetie. I have a puppy. I'm alone with him. You want to hear your food cook. You want to see it cook. You want to smell it cook. All your senses need to come alive. If you can't hear it cook, guess what? You're steaming, you're not searing, okay? So I have my cool, and I cannot hear that nearly as well as I want to. So I'm cranking this. So I have it on high, and I need to wait 1 second, okay? What we're waiting for here is caramelization. You add something to the pan, it sits there and creates that caramelization. Food, the sugar, all the sugars from the food is caramelizing on the bottom. If you mess around with it and you stir it around, you're never going to create that caramelization. You let it create its caramelization, and then there is, and when I go and I teach the kids, I always tell them, this is my favorite 4-letter F word, fond, F-O-N-D. And fond are those little bits of food that get stuck to the bottom of the pan during the cooking process. We're going to deglaze that pan, fancy French word for it. I'm lifting it off the stove and adding water to it, or you could add wine, you could add whatever you want, okay? So I'm going to sear this on all the sides. Washing my hands. Okay, so pesto. Pesto is something that I use as a flavor bomb, okay? When you are creating your food at home, remember that taste your food before it goes out, right? Season it before it goes out. You will see that I will season things once they're seared. I don't believe in seasoning things before because salt draws the moisture out of something, and if I'm trying to create an amazing sear, That's all I'm looking for, okay? I want to create a sear. So I am, oh, sweetie. So, fresh pesto, okay? I have never had a dog in my adult life, and we got a dog. So, my pesto is basil pesto, okay? But this one has ramps. So ramps are wild leeks. You can see the color is amazing, okay? And I'm just gonna garnish it. As I said, I don't allow my fresh herbs to really last all that long because they end up in my pesto. So I'm gonna sear this and I'm gonna tilt it your way so you can see the caramelization that I'm looking for. I'm gonna give a little bit of moisture here. Why the moisture? Because there's no fat in this at all. So, or very little of it. So I wanna add a little bit of moisture to keep this as moist as possible. I'm sure you can see, but you can see that gorgeous color on top, okay? So that's what we're looking for. I'm gonna cover this, and then we're gonna finish brown. Okay, I'm gonna give the brownie another minute or two. So I have three phrases: sear, deglaze, rest. Okay. Again, I say what's really important because this is really it. We talked about searing, hot pan. You want to see it. You want to hear it. You want to smell it. You want your senses to go. That's searing. Deglazing is you have all that fond on the bottom of the pan. Never get rid of it. Plus, it's an easier way to wash your dishes than having to wash it at the sink. Deglaze it with some water. Put it back on the stove. It's an awesome sauce. Okay. Sear, deglaze, rest. Please, 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 and if you need to go and you need to sort of come back to me, I can do that too and plate this up. But resting is the most critical thing that you can do in your kitchen. And here's my analogy. You go up north in the summertime or in June and you go in the water and it's freezing and everything shrivels up and your blood's rushing to the insides, okay? In order for me to get out and relax, I need to get in my chalkies and go sit by the fire, right? So now it's the same premise applies. You're gonna subject food stuff to heat and all the juice runs from the inside. If you cut it too fast, then all the juice is going to be on the bottom of your plate, which is not, I'm schwitzing, which is not where you want it. You want it left in the meat. So rule of thumb is, you cook a protein, you rest it for 35 to 40% of its cooking time. If you can manage 45% of the cooking time, I encourage you to do that, okay? So I'm gonna toss these around and the brownies are ready. Oh my God. So what's amazing is that, and you can see now, because the color of the kale was muted before, now that the steam has gotten it, they pop with color, okay? So I have, the way we're gonna plate this, I'll talk about it, I'll go to the brownie, and then we'll actually plate the chicken kale meatballs, they'll be done, okay? So what's so amazing about the chicken kale meatball presentation is this garnish is, think kale chips. But I take that same chiffonade of kale that I showed you how to do earlier that goes inside the kale, and I deep fry it. And it gets so crispy, and I season it just like you should with everything. As the moment it comes out of the fryer, you season it with salt so that it will stick, right? It basically just sucks that salt right up, okay? This is gonna garnish that chicken kale meatballs. And then we're gonna take some of that pesto and drizzle it right inside that tomato, and it's just gonna be a beautiful color contrast, okay?
And you have about 10 minutes left before we get kicked off, as much as I think I could sit here for hours watching you cook. But we're gonna have to wrap it up in about 10 minutes. Do you think that would be okay?
We're almost done in 3.
And if anyone has any other questions, feel free to post them on the chat so we can get to them before this is over.
Okay, so the brownie is gorgeous. I need to wipe the rim because that is no bueno. It is smoking hot. So I know that the rule of thumb is that you should wait. Don't wait. I encourage you to eat it the moment it comes out. So here's what I love to do is farmers markets are really important to me. My supply chain is really important to me. I am as organic as I can possibly be. I am as local as I can possibly be. I believe in sustainability. I believe in supporting local. Essa Seedlings, Liz, she's at Witchwood. She's amazing. No one's anywhere at this point, but she has been delivering. And so she has amazing sprouts and shoots, and I get fava shoots from her. They're amazing. But my favorite thing to get are the flowers. So she gives me flowers. It's me and one other chef in the city. And I shouldn't tell anybody. I should stop telling everybody where I get these. But she's just so unbelievably talented. And you know what? At this point, I think it's really important that we need to take care of our supply chain. They take care of us. We need to take care of them. And, you know, I don't stand on my soapbox. I think you all need to do what's really good for you and your family. But just let's remember where our food stuff is coming from. And, you know, you drive up north and you're passing, you know, Holland's Marsh. There's amazing farmers there that need our support. And so I encourage you the best you can to go to farmers markets or support farmers. And many, many, many of them right now are offering services right to your door. Okay, so here's what we've got. Okay, one other thing. Excuse me, there we go. So what I did was I garnished this top, and I'll just bring it over here so you can see. I garnished this top with flowers, okay? And the plate with some raw cacao, and it's just pretty. It adds a beautiful and an amazing amount of citrus, and that's what these flowers do. They do look stunning. They are gorgeous. Thank you. Regan, you're totally biased though. And thank you for inviting me. Great idea. And by the way, I should also say the oil that I used to use canola oil until an amazing human by the name of Regan Tessis, you may know her, she emailed her good friend Rebecca to say, you know, you should really tell Jordan that could be inflammatory for his skin. That was many years ago, and I've actually changed everything that I do in my kitchen as a result of that one email after I did my own due diligence. So that is the brownie. Okay, really simple, and the recipe is available to you. Let's do the chicken kale meatballs. So I'm going to do a bowl. I'm going to do this as a single presentation. So we'll do 3 balls, okay? Now, before I get to it, I'm going to let it rest for 1 second, and I know we're in a hurry, and I'm almost done. Rule of thumb. Anytime you're making a protein, and if you want to know before you cut into it or you put a thermometer if it's cooked, touch your index finger to your thumb. Touch right here. Don't press, just touch. That's a raw piece of meat. Middle one, that's a perfectly cooked medium rare steak. This third one, that's a chicken breast, a perfectly cooked chicken breast. That's what you're looking for, is it's firm to the touch. Okay? So very quickly, and we're wrapping this up. Excuse me, Billy, I love you, buddy. So we're taking the sauce, we're going to coat the bottom of the plate. We're going to put 3 chicken balls right in the middle, and we're going to garnish with our pesto. And our fried kale. Okay.
Jordan?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you offering any private cooking classes on Zoom over the next
Every week.
Every
week. Every week, literally. So if you're interested, I mean, absolutely speak to Rebecca Shapiro, or you can contact me on any social media. This is your chicken kale meatballs with cherry tomato sauce and fried kale on top, and you can see the pesto that's floating. You know what I'm going to do? Is I'm actually going to bring you closer so that you can see. Oh no, well, hang on, I gotta re-garnish that. That's no bueno. So that's our chicken kale meatballs with cherry tomato sauce. So thank you everybody for joining me. Thank you for having me. I hope you learned something. If you ever need to get in touch with me, you can reach me at Jordan at jordanwagman.com. Jordanwagman.com is my site, and at Chef Jordan Wagman is on my social media. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you so much, Jordan, Chef Jordan. That was so much fun. I can't wait to make all those different recipes. Your tricks were amazing. And, oh, sorry. I'm so sorry about that. Thank you, Chef Jordan. It was a really fun hour watching you cook. Your tricks and of the trade were amazing, and I can't wait to actually book a table in your home with friends when we're allowed out again. I want to think, are you taking reservations yet, or do we have to wait a little longer?
I think we have to wait a little bit.
I'm kidding. I just want to thank all the participants for joining us today. If you've already made a gift this year to the emergency campaign, thank you. If you've not yet done so, we encourage you to connect with us in the days ahead. We've added a link into the chat box. We know the pandemic has impacted all of us in so many ways, and any amount you can give will make a difference. There are many people who are suffering terribly from the crisis, whether facing physical health, mental health, or financial challenges. If you or someone you know needs help, please do not hesitate to reach out to us because we care. In the chat, you will see a hotline number. Please remember, we're here to support you in any way we can. Thank you again for taking the time to join us. Please save the date for our next webinar on June 11th at 8 p.m. when a panel of experts will share insights on anti-inflammatory nutrition, gut-brain connection, and the importance of leading a healthy lifestyle. Thank you and have a wonderful evening.